welcome to the Supernatural Stalker Files podcast, where we investigate this psychic phenomenon currently infringing on the privacy rights of unsuspecting, innocent citizens worldwide. Tonight, I'll be interviewing Ami B in reference to her experience with telepathic and remote view stalking. Ami has been decoding energy for 23 years and has had a traumatizing set of events take place that we will be discussing in this episode, Remote Attack, the Backstory. Ami, welcome, and let me begin by extending my love and compassion for your story. As unusual as this is for some, we both have experiences in what some label as supernatural. Set the stage for our listeners. What led up to what you're calling telepathic stalking? Where were you on a personal level? Thank you for that. 7 months ago, it was the beginning of April. Around the beginning of April, I had a psychic opening, basically an upgrade to my abilities. This crime started after I basically was talking to, it felt like loved ones, it felt like friends and family of mine. And I had just come out of about a year of doing some really introspective shadow work where I kind of closeted myself away in my bedroom. And instead of watching TV, I was participating in instigating an awakening process. Give our listeners a little bit more detail on the psychic opening. Yeah, so this is just something that happened to me, randomly it felt like, where I went from, I used to get telepathic communication, but it would be when I was communicating with my higher self. And there was one other person, I'm going to call him the angel right now. He was somebody that I would communicate with. And this started happening like 20 years ago. However, with that said, I just wasn't prepared. When these conversations started, it started with only a few people and it ended up growing into hundreds of people that I was communicating with at this time. When did the telepathy go from positive to negative? What exactly did it feel like? It was about 2 to 3 days into the experience when all of a sudden the conversations took a dark turn, what I call a dark turn, meaning it went from what I term an awakening, where I was having an upgrade in my psychic abilities. I was communicating with interdimensional beings, other parallel versions of myself. And like I said, the angel who came in. But then it took a dark turn. There was a character who came in. She had this really squeaky, high-pitched voice. And I call her the parasite. And she came in with extremely derogatory commentary, things I would never say to myself. Like, I'm so fat, I'm hairy. She was commenting on what was happening in my home moment by moment, meaning she was following me into the kitchen. She was saying derogatory things about my transgender 24-year-old. She was saying things about my animals, saying that whenever I petted an animal, that I was participating in bestiality. Isn't that fun? And no, it really wasn't fucking fun. I'm being sarcastic. So it took a dark turn only about 2 to 3 days in to shorten that response. You have claimed some of the stalkers are people you know. How were you able to identify them? I was able to identify them because they're idiots, meaning they gave me their fucking name. Okay, sorry for the cussing, but I am really angry right now because this is actively still going on. But I'm not just talking about acquaintances. I'm talking about close friends of mine, girlfriends to be exact, women. It was all women that have done this to me. So I'm going to be, over the course of the next 2 weeks, revealing by code name some of these women who I'm not going to identify just yet. I'm going to give them code names. And then if they don't leave me alone, because like I said, this is still going on, I plan on releasing their names at a later date. What kind of things were these supernatural stalkers saying to you? Sexual things, derogatory things. Basically, I want to say it was about 4 or 5 days into the parasite showing up. There was like this gang girl mentality that started where she was digitally manipulating me. She was using her hands and inserting them inside of me, and I could feel it like physical form. That's what it felt like. I'm pretty certain she was only penetrating my energy body, but my energy body and I are greatly connected. Like I said, I can feel the sensations as if they are solid form. So she was basically attacking me sexually and mentally. And I'm going to call it rape, energetic rape. Some people might have a problem with me using that term, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. That's what it felt like. And my friends, in quotes, decided to join in the fun. And they were saying sexual derogatory commentary to me pretty much the entire time. It was absolutely shocking and one of the worst aspects of this horrific experience. How did what they were saying make you feel? It made me feel like garbage. It made me feel like the years invested, because some of these friends I've had for 15, 20 years, the years invested had been an absolute lie, that they were frauds. And now I was terrified for my life, honestly. It was one of those situations where they knew all of my deepest insecurities and fears. So they were also joining in the fun and commenting about my weight and what I looked like, because I have had disabilities over the years, both mental and physical, and they made sure to rain that down on me. It was like being in the town square and having all of your best friends standing around you and throwing fucking rocks at your face is what it felt like. How has the stalking affected you mentally? Well, I'm sure you can hear it in my voice right now. I'm very anxious. I'm really angry. It's taken me from a very peaceful place, which is who I normally am, and a happy place. And I think that they mistook my kindness for weakness. No, I'm positive that's what they fucking did. So that's why we're sitting here right now, because I'm so positive and happy, people mistake that as I'm weak, and I'm not. So how has it affected me mentally? It has collapsed my entire worldview currently. Everything that I believed in has crumbled around me, and it's got me very anxious. It has me very angry, and I'm not going to lie to you. I fantasize about each one of them suffering a horrible death is what it's done to me mentally. Thank you for that, Amy. How did the stalking affect you physically? I have sciatica and was coming out of recovering from adrenal failure. So those two things are back on the table now. And, it just doesn't feel good when you spend thousands of dollars over the course of 6 years to recover from physical ailments. I was disabled and in a bed for about 3 years. These friends knew that, and they were counting on me basically expiring during this experience, because they said it over and over. One of the stalkers, she used acupuncture needles. I guess she imagined them. I don't know how she did it, but she was sticking them in my sciatic nerve, and it re-flared up all of the rehabilitation that I've done. So I'm also it's not just distressing. Like I said, the anger is there. So my last comment, I don't actually plan on killing anybody, but they have disassociated me so badly from even caring about what happens to them that I can freely say that they've caused me that much pain and damage that if they were to die tomorrow, I wouldn't shed a tear. I would probably be relieved. This sounds like it was quite the ordeal. I've had similar experiences, but it didn't last anywhere nearly as long. Tell our listeners who may have this happening right now what they can do to overcome this mentally. Since I'm not completely out of the woods yet, obviously, it's really hard to say what they can do to overcome it, but I can say how they can cope. I have created some downloadable, survival guides for your phone that goes over the mental tips and the physical tips on my Facebook and on Instagram. Instagram is Amy, AMI _Blackford, BLACKFORD. And it does give some mental tips. One of the things that these supernatural stalkers do is, because they're invisible and because there's no evidence, it's an evidence-less crime, they say whatever they want. And it's usually the low-hanging fruit. They go after your weight, your body hair, anything that they can do, especially for women, to induce more insecurity than we all already fucking have. They're going to do that. And so you have to take the time to really love yourself. I know that's going to sound cliche, but it's the truth. It's your shield. It's the only thing that you can do to mentally get through it is you have to be able to hear blasting in your fucking ears how horrible you are on every level, because they, like I said, they know your fears. Most of these stalkers, unfortunately, are people you know in some capacity, whether it's professional or privately, personal. And they know if they've had engagement with you, what your triggers are, and they're looking to trigger that. So your best mental protection is to love yourself and to tell yourself that these stalkers are so miserable and so pathetic and weak that they are coming at you like a troll on the internet. It's the same concept. It's just much more personal and it's much more invasive. I think it's wonderful that you have some tips that have been posted. Please describe what you did to physically protect yourself. Yeah, I'm going to get more into detail about remote view and this technology that I experienced, whether it's from the future, an alternate timeline, it's something that's under development, that's on the dark web, that's been stolen and is being used currently that people don't know about. I'm not really quite sure, but remote view, you're going to know because they're going to give you live, moment by moment actions you're taking, things you're reading, and the attacks can get very physical, especially if you can feel energy. So physically, to protect yourself, you need to be taking a daily dose of vitamins. I recommend Intramax. It's by Drucker Labs, and that is on the physical tips. That's on the downloadable that I told you about. You have to get plenty of sleep, fresh air and sunshine, at least 15 minutes a day. Making certain to be in bed by around the time sun goes down, because one thing I did notice was that activity elevated at night. You know, my particular horde, the swarm that came after me, they're all on some sort of upper, whether it's Adderall, and I found crystal meth was another one. So a lot of these stalkers get inebriated in some way, and then it's a free-for-all. You know, it's like drunk texting. Let's get inebriated and then start stalking people. It's become like a little fun game. They called it sabotage. So if you hear this, just know you're not crazy, that this is actually happening to you, and you might want to investigate it. What's your advice for parents with children who may be psychic and able to hear these supernatural stalkers? So this part breaks my heart, is that the kids can hear it. A lot of them can hear it. They're intuitive, they're open, and they're being bullied by these lowlifes and these criminals. And so my best advice to parents is, and I recommend this on the tips, the mental tips, and I am going to be putting out more material on how to help your kids through this and the way to speak to them, because I do have a lot of years invested in childhood education and just dealing with kids in general. So the best thing that you can do is use humor and imagination. Weave that into it. I say tell them that these are pesky demons that even Satan kicked out of hell because they're so annoying. And try and keep it as light as you can, but also leave the door open that your kid can talk to you about it. And if they don't feel comfortable to talk to you about it, tell them to draw you a picture or, write it down. And just make sure that you keep an open dialogue. Because one thing that I have heard, the parasite, she likes touching children. And I know this is a really touchy subject. I did not mean to use that word right there, but I did, and I'm going to keep going. Basically, she described to me that she was touching children energetically and grooming them. So my biggest fear is that pedophiles all over the world that come into contact with this dark web technology, because I'm starting to feel like, as I talk about it as a psychic and intuitive, that might be the answer, that this is some sort of technology that got stolen from someone developing it, and now it's being used for nefarious reasons. And the kids, if they start showing any sort of symptoms, know that these stalkers they're not just telepathic and talking in the head. Some of them do have technology that they're using and that they can touch your kid. And if your kid is open energetically, they could be being molested and not want to talk about it. I know I didn't want to talk about it. I still haven't talked about it with my ex-husband who I live with. And, sorry, Lance, if you're listening to this right now, I just didn't feel comfortable to talk about it. So now I am talking about it here on this interview with you. So that's my best advice to parents. What are your closing words of advice to those currently being victimized by this evidenceless crime? Just have faith. Have faith in yourself and do your best to take care of yourself physically and mentally. And hopefully the stalker will go away, or stalkers will go away. What's your message to these stalkers if they're listening right now? It's simple. Leave me the fuck alone. And if you don't leave me alone, I'm outing you by your legal name on social media. So, there you have it. As unpleasant as this topic is, I agreed to this interview because I believe that this is an important issue currently unfolding in our society. Please follow Amy on Instagram, AMI_BLACKFORD, for updates in reference to this story and more. In a follow-up episode, Amy will reveal the identities of these stalkers, because as of the day of this broadcast, they are still harassing her and refusing to leave her alone. She'll give us background information into her story with each of these nefarious individuals.